Well, Barry, thanks for speaking to us. We're just coming off the back of Michael Giorgiu's victory at the Coral Shootout. Bit of a Marmite event for some people, but I don't think anyone could deny this must have been the most exciting shootout ever.
I think it was, and it is a Marmite event. You know, it's created controversy, opinions have been very varied, from the top players down to the bottom players. I mean, obviously, the lower ranked players look on it as a chance for TV exposure, a chance to win money, and by making it a ranking event, we've shown that there's a crazy side to our personality. We court controversy. We want people's opinions to be varied. We want discussion. We want interaction with our fans. And the shootout has provided that. But at the end of the day, as a sporting event, it ticked a lot of boxes. Great crowds, decent TV ratings. In a declining linear market, it held its own. Sponsors over the moon happy, and great media stories. And Michael Giorgio was, I suppose, very similar to like a Rob Cross winning the World Darts Championships. You know, someone the general public haven't seen a lot of, who's earned the right to change his life. And now it's up to him where he goes from here. But for me, I thought it was compelling TV viewing.
And what a great story, Michael Giorgio, as you say, winning that.
Yeah.
He really did it in style, didn't he? I mean, it was...
He played so well, apart from the silly black he missed off the spot in the final, which he was nearly kicking himself for, because how well did Graham Dott come back to make it such an exciting final? It takes two players, generally speaking, to make an exciting final. We had a lot. I mean, 109 break, 102 break, big breaks for the shootout, but the standard was great. If I had one criticism, I still think that the English, the UK young snooker players don't interact with the audience enough. There was too much walking off like that. There wasn't enough embracing the crowd, embracing the moment. Whereas if you look at the Hamza Akbars and people like that, they really put their personality across. Something for the UK players to learn, you know, it's not good to be a secret. Embrace the moment.
One of the spin-offs for Giorgio winning was, of course, that he gets into the World Grand Prix. Barry Hawkins, defending champion, doesn't get in. I suppose that just shows that we start the season with a clean slate, and these events really is every man for themselves, and it's great for the tour, isn't it?
I think that, you know, we know there's a level playing field, and there's enough events now to say, realistically, that the top 16 in the rankings, for example, are the best 16 in the world, because they've laid themselves out to be challenged in 128-man fields, people coming in at day one. It's going to also cause upsets, because sometimes, you know, Barry Hawkins will probably say he hasn't had the best season so far. Lots of time to go to change that. But nevertheless, he hasn't earned his place. So no one in snooker these days gets in on the back of reputation. They get in the back of current form and existing tournament winning on the 2-year ranking, and the 1-year ranking for the Grand Prix and eventually the players shows that's the reward for people enjoying a great piece of form in a one-season basis. And you will get upsets, you will get shocks, but what we'll get is we'll get media stories, we'll get conversation in pubs, we'll get people discussing it on the various podcasts or wherever. And we need to create that activity. We can't just be a secret. Someone said on Twitter the other day about an idea, and they said, this worked in the 1980s. And I'm like, this is exactly what I'm trying to change, because we don't live in the 1980s. We live in 2018, unless anyone hasn't looked at a calendar. And we have to adjust our marketing, our techniques, our television exposure, our formats. We have to embrace the new audience and the future new audiences. And for that, we have to be innovative. And we can't be stuck in yesterday, because we're a sport that's dreaming of massive tomorrows.
And I think these tournaments, the Ladbrokes World Grand Prix and Ladbrokes Players Championship, they do add so much to the tour. And I think we know that there's big things to come, possibly taking that series on even a step further.
I've been a fan of, for example, the FedEx tournament in golf for a long time. I mean, mainly because not only are they massive events at the end of a season, but they give people conversation pieces during the season. And of course, they open the door to entry for people that perhaps weren't considered prior to the start of the season. So in a fairness world where it's all about ability, the FedEx system, which is at the moment the World Grand Prix and the players, 32 players from a 1-year list, means at the start of the season, when you've won your tour card, You have no restrictions. It's just about your own ability. Are you good enough? If not, try harder next season. But the system of rewarding the top players on performance is absolutely vital to the growth of the game. You need the flag bearers. You need to reward excellence. You need to encourage other people by saying, look, if you were better, you could be there. So to my mind, there's no limit to what the top players should earn, because they're my best advertisement to the world. Their change in lifestyle encourages other people to hopefully follow in their footsteps. Plans ahead, I'd love to see the FedEx system enlarged by another tournament, because to me, 32 players becoming 16, as we have at the moment, opens the door to the 16 becoming 8. And we're in conversations with broadcasters and sponsors to try and achieve that. And you're always going to get stories. You're always going to create moments where a Michael Giorgio suddenly got into the World Grand Prix. Now, Michael Giorgio wins or gets a real good finish in the World Grand Prix. Maybe he gets into the players. Maybe he gets into next year, the next one. And lives are changed, and that's how you promote sport. You don't promote it by doing same old, same old. It might appeal to a few hundred old school anoraks, but it doesn't appeal to the millennial customer that I'm trying to attract.
And I suppose the biggest story of the year so far, probably in terms of the tour, is the China Open. We're up to £1 million in prize money now, the biggest prize money outside of the World Championship. I suppose if there was ever any doubt, snooker has really arrived in China on the big level now.
Well, I think it's got, if you're climbing a mountain that China is, we've probably left base camp. We're still nowhere near the peak, by the way. You know, when I'm so pleased to see that jump, because we are beginning to get the value that we should get out of one of the biggest sports in the world, and in particular one of the biggest sports in China. We're miles behind golf and tennis in China, and yet we're far bigger on TV numbers and players. So we know we've got the potential to go further, but every journey, as Mao Zedong once said, starts with the first step. And the first step was the way we handled, and not just me, the whole team at World Snooker and the WPBSA, the way we handled the China negotiations was textbook stuff. You know, by restricting supply, we increased demand. By appealing to our state broadcaster and signing a 10-year deal, opened the door to digital exploitation. By saying to promoters, no, we are not satisfied with these levels of prize money, gave us, from a starting point, huge increases this year across the board, but in particular China Open. Hitting that £1 million barrier is a watershed moment for the game, but it's not stopping there. This is the beginning, not the end. But you need to start the process, and we've started it. I couldn't be happier when you look at the history of the China Open and you see the first prize, I think, started off at something like 30,000 for the winner. This year it's 225. How long will it be till the winner gets the £1 million rather than the total prize money? Not long, I hesitate to think.
And just finally, it's not just China snooker's branching out into, we've agreed a streaming deal with DAZN to supply streaming to Canada this week. I suppose that's a sign that the global footprint of snooker's growing even further.
I think we're a global game. Unfortunately, too many people are still a little bit locked into parochial thinking. You know, we're not a UK game anymore. We're a global game, and the performances of players will determine where the next push is going to be. Our job is to make sure that we're seen, we're visible, we're talked about, and we do that by either linear or digital television networks. Canada is another push. We're working now on USA, because with a digital marketplace appealing to niche sports, and we are a niche sport in most areas of the world, behind soccer, which dominates the sporting landscape, we have audience everywhere. So all we've got to do is go and get it. And whether we're using DAZN, our partners in so many streaming opportunities, whether we're looking at Facebook, whether we're looking at Amazon, or whether we're reverting back to linear broadcasts with the Eurosports, the ITVs, the BBCs, the CCTV in China, it doesn't matter. We've got momentum. When you have momentum in a sport, you have opportunity to change and improve. And our job is zero complacency. Every day is the start of new opportunity, and we will not let one pass. Watch this space. Snooker's an exciting place to be at the moment.
Thank you very much for your time, Barry.
Pleasure.